Hey everyone, welcome to a Hangout of Witches, episode 1. We're talking tonight at the Cool Table about season 2 of A Discovery of Witches, episode 1. My name is Beth. This is the Cool Table. And so if you're here, welcome. This is what we do at the Cool Table. We sit and we discuss books and movies and television shows that we're obsessed with. And just last night, A Discovery of Witches dropped its second season. We've been waiting 2 years for this buddy. It's finally here. And we're very excited about it. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And these are all of the very fine ladies that are going to be talking about it tonight. Quickly say hello. I'm Beth. Karen, you say hello as well.
Hi, everyone. Karen, glad to be back.
I'm Jana. I'm very happy to be here too. I have a lot to say.
I'm Courtney.
Hi, Courtney.
And I am Lachey.
I'm Courtney.
Hi, Lachey. These ladies talked to us about A Discovery. I know Jana and Courtney, y'all were both on a Hangout of Witches at our former home at That's Normal, right?
Yes.
I was on. I came in. I started reading after because I heard y'all talking about it, and I was like, I need some more of that.
Okay. It was a good time. It was a very good time. Back then, we just
2 years ago. I don't remember it.
we
I assume it was a good time.
There are only 4 episodes of a Hangout of Witches up because we just talked about a couple of episodes at a time. We just like kind of went through it. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Brett.
And it was good. It was a good time. But now we're going to break them down every week, Sunday nights until it's over 10 weeks. We're going to be here talking about it. So I hope you guys will join us. Real quick, I want to hear everybody's like history real quick with A Discovery of Witches. When did you read the books? When did you watch the show? When did you come to it, if you can recall?
I know exactly where I was. I was in Houston Intercontinental Airport, Lachey. Hats off to Bush.
Yep.
From Houston, probably back to DC because I used to live on airplanes all the time. And I had finished the book and I didn't have my Kindle with me. And I popped into one of those stores, like a Hudson or something. And it was literally right next to the cash register. And I picked it up and I bought it, didn't even think about it. And I literally did not put it down the entire flight and sort of fell in love with it, got off the plane and texted my twin, who proceeded to tell me I was a complete moron because she had been telling me about this book for years. I vividly remember reading it.
That's nice. What year was that?
2013 or 14, 2012 maybe.
Okay. So before the show. That's not that too long after it was written.
It had just come out in paperback. It was the release of the big trade paperback, which is why it was up there by the NCAT.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was maybe a year or so after it had been released.
Yeah. What about you, Jana?
I read the books 3 to 4 years ago. My sister-in-law had been telling me that she was reading the first one and really loved it. So it was by the time the third one had come out. So I just read them really quickly, consumed them way too fast. And now I don't remember as much about the books, which is kind of helpful coming into the show because a lot of it is still a surprise.
Yeah.
So,
Courtney, what about you?
After I heard you all talk about it at the other home, That's Normal, I immediately, I think I was still overseas, so I didn't have access to the book. So as soon as we moved back, I bought one, was reading through it so fast, I immediately ordered 2 and 3 and the companion book. That's like the kind of after story.
Yeah.
And just like everybody else, devoured it, and then I saw the TV show, and I can't get enough.
Gotcha. Lachey, what about you?
I read all of the books last year. I watched the show. I watched the first season and was like, okay, I like it, and I went and devoured the books just like everyone else. I was a little nervous though, because usually when I do it that way, I did it for Outlander, I end up getting in trouble later because I'm nitpicking everything. But I have to say, I rewatched season 1 and watched the first episode yesterday, and it wasn't, I think they're doing good so far. So hopefully they'll stay on track.
Yeah.
And we'll get to see everything the way Deborah wanted us to, I guess. So
Love her.
Brett just said, I read them when Beth recommended this series on That's Normal. Thank you, Brett. That's
Yes,
my-
you can actually say that's normal on this webcast. You don't need to say at its other home. It's fine.
Former home. But yeah, that's my favorite thing to hear is that somebody read something that I recommended. I do better than Karen's twin on recommendations. People tend to take them. Whereas the problem with Karen's twin, well, I don't know why we're calling her that. Her name's Layla. The problem with Layla is that she reads so much. She's so prolific.
Yes.
That she recommends things and sometimes gives you books. And I'm like, Layla, I do not have time for all of the things you have recommended. She's just way, way too prolific for me personally. And that's saying a lot.
I think she's a sorceress of some sort because I'm not really sure where she finds the time to read it all. In fact, I think it's very strange. We should dig into this at some point.
Yeah, you should. Layla's like, she's super busy. I mean, I would assume if she was a creature, she'd be a demon because they have like all of this like creative energy and like they're geniuses and stuff. And like maybe if she was a demon, she could get through all the books that she gets through. So that's the only option.
Since we share DNA, I would totally be okay if she were a demon.
My story with Discovery Witches is very unique. I think it's unique. It's not unique to some people, but it's unique on this panel at least. I read it because when it came out, everybody knew it was coming out. Everybody in my circle knew it was coming out because we were all really big into Twilight fan fiction. And it read like Twilight fan fiction. And we were all like, holy shit, somebody published their Twilight fan fiction and didn't tell us. So we all went and got the book. And it had been out not long at all and read it. And we were like, this is just like, I know exactly which Twilight fic it was about. It sounded just like Creature of Night. We were like, this is Creature of Night. And then everybody's like, no, it's not. The actual author is a real historian. She's a real person. And we were like, well, whatever. It reads just like that. And I did not pick up the second book. Well, no, I did pick up the second book and I couldn't get through it because it was less like Twilight fan fiction than the first one. And all I was reading in 2011, whenever this thing came out, was Twilight fanfic. So I couldn't get through the second book. I needed more vampire Edward in my life at that particular moment in my reading history. So I didn't finish the second book. Then the series came out, which I was very excited about. We talked about it a lot and covered it. And I got to interview them. I fell in love with Deborah Harkness, who I think is just so wonderful. She's such a gracious author. She's so smart. And so as soon as the first series was over, I reread the second book or finished the second book and really enjoyed it. And I haven't read book 3 yet.
I did. And the companion one. Because when you're stuck in a third world country with spotty internet, you tend to read a lot of books. And they were delightful.
Yeah. I mean, I know what happens, but I haven't read it. I will. I'll probably read it when I'm done with this series and we're done talking about it. I'll get to that point. Brett said she's such a nerd, she had to look up the pronunciation of Ouroboros. Ouroboros? Ouroboros. That's okay. Emma said, I read the whole series once I heard they were making the show and it looked like something I'd like, which is 100% what I do when I hear that they're making a show that looks like something I'd like. Although lately, nobody has made a show that I didn't already read the books of. That hasn't happened. If it's happened, I don't know about that series. That's what's been happening with my life. Why am I waiting to read book 3? I have a lot of books to read. That's really partially it. Also, I wanted to watch the second season before I read book 3. That I felt like that would be fun. So that's why I did that. I will read it. Everybody's yelling at me. Sheila said I've read books 1 and 2, but haven't been able to start book 3. That's where I am, Sheila. Shelly. I don't know why I called you Sheila. I'm sorry. Shelly. I agree. Thanks very much. So let's talk about it. We've been introducing for 10 minutes. What did you guys think of the first episode? If I can be so bold, there have been 9 episodes of A Discovery of Witches. And this is my second favorite one out of all of them. I thought it was a great episode. Not my favorite episode.
Yes.
But my second favorite of the entire series so far. But what did you guys think of it?
I really liked it. This is probably my favorite episode of the show so far. And I rewatched season 1 last week, and it was fine. I had a few issues that I probably brought up a long time ago that don't need to be rehashed, but it was fine. But episode really like blew up my expectations. I thought it was great.
Anybody else?
I'll say for now.
I
What?
wouldn't say it was one of my favorite episodes, but it definitely was a great first episode. We got in there, we got to learn character traits of some of our new friends that were meeting the series. You know, kind of, it literally just jumps from last season to this season, so you're kind of almost refreshed a little bit. And then just the scenery, like I'm a big art history, architectural history nerd, and that's the one thing, like when they first pulled out and you saw the old St. Paul's and the old London, those are the things I'm looking forward to outside of the storyline. So visually for me, it was very exciting.
Yeah, I liked it that way too. Karen?
I thought that, well, we had an entire season last year of learning who Diana was and learning who Matthew was. So we didn't have to go through that. And so I think there was a lot more room for different sort of character introduction. And also the pacing was very good for a lot of sly setup. There were, in almost every scene, there was something setting up a stake or a conflict or something that we were going to have to prepare ourselves for. But it wasn't sort of performative. There was a lot of that in season one. They were cramming a lot of information and introducing the dynamics of the 3 different worlds. And it's sort of assumed that we actually understand that now. So it felt much more spaced out and a lot of Easter egg dropping as opposed to sort of face punches. Like the first season, it was just constant. It was in your face all the time. And this one was much, much more subtle. So I thought it was a wonderful episode. I loved, not my favorite episode. There were episodes in season 1 that I loved. Imperfect as they might have been, I loved them. I didn't love this episode, but it was a great episode.
Yeah. Lachey, what about you?
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I was a little nervous, just I guess gun shy after other series. So a little bit trepidatious, but I love the way that it's setting everything up, that's to come from what, if you read the books and what's happening in this time period. And I thought they did a great job of starting to introduce everyone and what is actually happening around this time, in this time period, with Matthew and Diana. And I think it was gorgeous, like the costumes and everything, just absolutely gorgeous. The settings, absolutely gorgeous. So I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really great for me. What I really love is that there is they have a clear purpose. Episode 1, you're right, season 1 is full of so much exposition, figuring out what's going on. And in this one, Matthew and Diana are going into the past to find the book and get her a teacher and get the hell out of Dodge. And
you know that because they say it out loud at least 4 times.
Exactly.
Just at least.
I'm glad that they did, because there's been this little obviously they're not where they thought they were. They're dropped into him seeing people from his old life, which he didn't expect. And there's other parts of the story that are going to come up in season 2 that it is going to require a lot of exposition. And so I'm glad that at the beginning we still have this clear cut, this is what they're here for, this is their purpose, because otherwise it would feel, I think, overwrought and convoluted. Speaking of overwrought and convoluted, my husband was watching it with me. He watched all of season 1 last week, and he did not understand what was going on with Philippe. They start talking about Philippe and what Matthew had to do, and he was like, what?
I didn't understand either. I don't remember the book.
100%.
I get that Catholics are being persecuted right now in history, but I'm like, what the hell does Philippe have to do with anything?
Yeah. It is really convoluted. So just as an explainer, a very simple explainer, because I don't super remember either, Philippe has created the congregation to rule over the creature people, but also is involved in getting his fingers in all of the political pies of Europe so that he can retain power with the Knights of Lazarus and through the congregation. And in order to do that, he sends Matthew, who is his subordinate in the Knights of Lazarus, to infiltrate Elizabeth's court as one of her spies. And knowing that Matthew is Catholic and knowing that as a spy for Elizabeth, he will be forced to persecute Catholics. And he doesn't really care because he needs him to be there for power reasons. Is that right? Does that seem right to those of you that have read the books?
It's very much reminds me of Mafia. It's just like his hand is in a little bit of everything. He's everywhere. Like there isn't much of anything that happens that he does not know about. So
right.
Yeah.
He's the Godfather. Matthew, somebody from The Godfather
Yep.
that's reports to The Godfather. I don't know. I've never seen those movies.
And he couldn't find like one of his non-Catholic minions to go spy in the English court.
I mean, would there have been
Not that
non-Catholic
he trusted
minions?
enough.
I think Courtney's
right.
hit it on the head. All the other children,
Yeah.
as you meet them through these stories, are dreadful former human beings. And Matthew has always had this very bizarre but strict moral code and believes in chain of command, believes in saving vampires. And no way Louisa would have done it. No way. No.
Yeah. Dawn just said, I thought he was in Scotland on a mission. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
But that he was sent on that mission by Elizabeth. See, this is why it's confusing. Elizabeth's spy master has sent him to Scotland to deal with the witch problem in Scotland, which is another level of Matthew persecuting people. But this is going to come into play with Diana because essentially Matthew is ushering in the hunting of witches in Scotland.
Correct.
Because
and that
this
was
Matthew,
real 15th century Matthew, not from the future.
Right.
Yeah.
So funny Matthew has come back and couldn't quite remember what he was doing that week. He had to figure it out.
Yeah. But in
so
the
this was Back
16th
to the
century,
future, his picture would start disappearing a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
16th century Matthew was perfectly okay with persecuting witches. It was not a problem for him. And so that is actually going to be a problem moving forward for Diana and for their relationship, because obviously Kit has a major issue. So let's talk about Kit, which is my favorite part of this episode. Tom Hughes is my favorite part of this episode, and his relationship with Matthew is one of my favorite things from the book. He is a bitchy queen, and I love every second of it.
He looks so good while being that bitchy.
He does.
Like,
oh my goodness.
His hair, the scruff was so good.
Yeah,
Just
The
gorgeous.
styling, the total styling was perfect. It like couldn't have been more perfect.
I absolutely what I love about Kit is that he has no chill. He comes out immediately. Who the hell are you? And also, isn't Matthew a vampire? How does he not smell that Kit is there? How does he not hear his heartbeat? How does he not know that Pierre and Francoise are upstairs? Like, what happened to his preternatural senses?
Thank you. When he opened the door, there's never not anyone home. I was like,
there's 3 folks there.
Come on now.
You know who's in there. You can hear them and you can smell them. I thought that was the strangest. He should have opened the door to say, "Stay here. I need to make sure they're ready." And she'd be like, "There's someone here." Right?
Yeah.
It could have reinforced his vampireness. Instead, he looked like a boob.
Yeah.
Well, he did just
And
time
when
walk,
he walked
though.
right by the door where Kit was and headed upstairs, I'm like, he steps from you. How are you missing that?
Yeah.
He
Lashane
did
said
just time travel, so
right.
he time walk. So maybe he's a little disoriented.
Yeah,
I mean, I
maybe he's a
know
little
it's a reach, but
Like jet lag.
yeah.
It is pretty weird though that he had he couldn't even hear like any heartbeats or whatever going on. That was a little bit obnoxious. But I like that he growls at Kit immediately, protects Diana immediately. I feel like in the book, Christopher Marlowe comes in and Diana almost is like, "Hello, are you gonna like tell him to back off?" Like, am I remembering that right? That he's not as like quick to come to Diana's defense.
I don't remember that.
That's one of the things that was bothering me. I was telling you I had to pull out the book because I was like, I swear there's a little bit more hesitation in that arrangement that they had, that little interaction between the two of them at first.
Yeah.
And he was more hesitant. But I like the way they did it in the TV series because it's Matthew.
Yeah.
In my head, that's what Matthew would have done versus what was in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I loved about their reunion, which comes a few minutes later after he's taken Diana upstairs, is Matthew Good's face when he goes down to talk to Kit And he just has this look on his face where he sees him, he's about to go talk to him. And it's like the look of someone when you see a friend that you never thought you were going to see again. And he's seeing him from 400 years ago. But there's just like this, I can't believe this is actually happening. And then he kind of steels himself for the conversation. And I mean, there's no dialogue there. I'm sure that it's written in the script that, you know, Matthew is doing that. But the fact that Matthew Good is so good at displaying all of that before he goes out and walks and starts talking to him, I thought was like one of the most excellent little bits of acting that I saw.
Yeah, he was really good in this
I
episode.
agree.
What do we think about Kit's little unrequited crush on Matthew?
I felt like the moment Matthew rushed down the stairs and growled at him, it made it feel very unrequited. Like if he knew he had kind of had a romantic history with Kit, maybe he wouldn't have reacted so strongly. Like he would have tried to let him down a little more gently.
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't look like he was acting like a current or former lover of Kit. That felt very clear. And I don't remember from the book what their history. Like I know Kit has feelings for Matthew, but I don't remember.
I can't imagine that Kit, you know, that Matthew didn't know, like in the past, you know, that Kit felt that way or, you know, any of that. So it's just, I don't know. It always, there's always a question for me, even when reading it, just like, I wonder how Matthew handled it or how Matthew's past self handled it back then versus, you know, what he's, you know, doing now that he has Diana. You know, I just wonder if there's like a change and maybe that's why it's so jarring for Kit, I guess is the word. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to say the one thing I noticed and I tweeted about it is he is so intense. Kit is so very intense in this episode. And I assume through the rest of the season. Yes. Oh my goodness. But I love it. I love it.
Emma just said Kit seemed jealous that Matthew was with Diana. I mean, absolutely.
Of course he was.
He's 100% jealous. That's meant to come through. I think in the book there isn't an explicit relationship between Matthew and Kit.
They never say, no.
Right. Because there's another level going on here, which would have been they still had the covenant, and that would have been an interspecies relationship.
That's true. That's true. And apparently, past Matthew was very against intermingling. So,
right.
Yeah.
I remember from the book though that it was very obvious that Kit was in love with Matthew.
It is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just the requitedness of it that we're arguing about, I guess.
He gave him money. I always got sort of the impression that he was amused by Kit. And that when he came back in the past with Diana, that's when he realized there was a dangerous aspect to his genius versus the creative aspect.
That makes sense. I mean, it would have also made sense that because they had the School of Night and because 16th century London and all century Londons until maybe the 20th were very male-dominated society, but also male social structure where they only spent time with each other unless they were with their wives or their mothers or their sisters. And none of them had wives and didn't spend time with their mothers or their sisters. So like, it would have been just so, of course he would have been amused by him. Of course he would have been they would have been bouncing their genius off of each other for years and years and years. And that would have been part of what attracted him to it. But I don't think it was ever meant to be, on Matthew's part, at least, romantic. Poor Kit. Poor Kit's going to get even bitchier. It's going to get even worse. Yeah. He's going to throw down later. It's going to be great.
It's going to be fun.
But a Matthew Kit sandwich wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I'm just going to throw that
Diana's
out
missing
there.
out. Diana is missing out. Yeah.
Totally missing out on that.
Speaking of other shows that we don't talk about, I was getting super duper Outlander vibes in the scene with Kit and Diana at the fire. Very Lord John and Claire discussing who Matthew really is. I love a jealous bitchy didn't get to have him lover telling the wife who the man really is because he sees him in other contexts. That scene was excellent, especially because she was like, with respect, you don't know me. Just so good. So good. I loved it.
But
Yeah,
they're
she
not
didn't
You know
even
what
in the way
they're
she
not really married yet.
True.
It's
Yes.
all fake. They
but
haven't even consummated their relationship yet.
Right. And wouldn't Pierre and Francoise know that?
Yes. Well, they
Yeah.
would know that Matthew fed on her, and they're obviously very confused by that. Like,
Right.
but they know, but he's the lead dog, so they know better than to question that. But they would absolutely know, which I think maybe unintentionally, that's why they're not as fussed about it as Kit is, because they understand the physical dynamics of how a vampire wife becomes a vampire wife, and that hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm. But do they? I mean, they would know. I mean, are they like? Are they? Are their senses heightened enough where they know? Or are they just kind of like mediocre vampires who can't figure it out? Because if in the book, at least, when they go to meet Philippe, he's like, "Y'all aren't mated. I can tell immediately." He can like smell it, but maybe they aren't like advanced enough to kind of figure it out. I don't know if it works like that or not.
I don't know. Let's ask
I don't
Deb.
know.
Okay. I just wanted to show that Heidi just said, I never read the books, and it was clear that Kit wanted to bone Matthew.
You're
So-
right.
Yes, girl.
It 100%
Totally
was. But was it clear that Matthew was not interested? Or did it look like Matthew was having to tone down a former relationship because he's a different Matthew and Diana is there?
To me, it looked like Matthew was definitely not interested. And like, he wasn't really even interested in letting Kit down gently. Like, this is my wife, bitch. You leave her alone.
Yeah, he did it. He did say that immediately.
And see, I got
His
that
priority
in the
was
show.
definitely
I'm not sure if I got that in the book.
Yeah.
I have to go back and look at it again.
Yeah, I felt like the book, it took him. Diana was jealous for a long time in the book.
Mm-hmm.
She's feeling all of this stuff coming from Kit, and Matthew is not giving her the reassurance she needs. She's jealous. And there's only a little bit of jealousy in this episode, like when he's like, I got to go out. And she's like, tonight? We just time walked here. Where the hell are you going? He's like, I got to meet some folks. And I think that might be kind of the undercurrent of that, is that she's like, why is he going? Like, why has he got to go out again? We just saw the people that he knows or whatever.
I'm quite confused with the timing, right? I mean, so they traveled after the sun went down on All Hallows Eve in 2012 or 2013 or whatever it was, to the same night in 1590. But it felt like it was night for like 36 hours. I was very confused by when the sun was up and when it wasn't up. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Depending on how long it took her to get into that dress and how long it took, like, Walter Raleigh to get there. Especially because she goes out and sneaks out and sees Sophie or Susanna. Anyway, I just like that Heidi said, I thought that they probably used to bone.
But Heidi. I mean, maybe they could do the next Bachelor.
Look,
Kit could.
Matthew doesn't need to be bi. The only person in any television show that needs to be bi for me right now is Benedict Bridgerton.
Yes.
Everybody else can be straight as an arrow from now. I need it to be Benedict Bridgerton, and then we're good. Let's move forward. So Diana goes out, and her magic wakes her up, and she gets up and she follows a woman down the alley, and she turns around and she is Sophie's face. Sophie's face plus mole.
They really did not do that actress any favors.
No.
They really dowdied her up.
She's like
one of my only issues. Like, she's so beautiful. It's like, oh, you really tried to make her look like a bitch.
But also, it was just such a trope, right? She had the cloak, that had
the trope.
And the mole was like, where's the broom?
And like even a little bit of like a hook nose.
I really wish they had put it right here. I mean, really, really, really good. But I love that actress, and I love that they did a double, bind or whatever on her. And I love that she seems to me, if you've read the books, that to be a mix of Widow Beaton and Susanna, right? She's not just Susanna Norman. Again, we all don't seem very clear on what happened in the book.
Right.
I don't remember.
Widow
It seems
Beaton,
like they didn't land exactly like when they landed. I thought they landed at his other house, and it seems like they're already in London
yeah,
proper.
they are
So, yeah,
condensing a lot.
yeah.
So I've seen most of the season, and they're going to do that a lot, where the timeline is moved and they mash things together to keep it going.
Yep.
For instance, the School of
They
Night
have
does
a
not
lot
have
of
all the.
places to go.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Remember, they said they have a big road trip coming up, people.
instead of going to a place and going back to this another place and then going, they're just going to go place to place.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I mean, the School of Night has more characters in it, and they're great in the book. But can you imagine like 3 or 4 more guys in that room and like trying to figure out who they are and what their point is? I mean, no. So I'm glad they don't have them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had to watch the episode like 2 or 3 times just to figure out who was Raleigh and who was the Earl of
Northumberland.
And didn't. So like adding more dudes to that, I would have been completely lost.
Yeah. Plus, if you're just watching it and you know nothing, I mean, even the fact that he gets called in by Cecil, Sir Cecil Lord, whoever he is, and his little spy guy. I mean, that's a lot of brand new people in the world, and it's too much. Jamie just said it's probably a good thing because I thought there was a lot of filler in the book. I agree.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I mean, it's a good book. I just think that it's too much for one adaptation all the way through. Andy said, is that actor really deaf? Yes. The guy playing Henry Percy is really hearing impaired. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Karen wants us to know that her dream casting of Kate for season 2 of Bridgerton is Sophie. But I will say this, just a Bridgerton side note. Bridgerton's Kate is probably going to be Indian.
Maybe.
In why can't I think of words? She's going to be ethnically Indian, I think. And Edwina. Maybe not Edwina, but I think both of them, yes, are going to be Indian.
Okay.
So anyway, there's a little spoiler for you guys. Bridgerton spoiler. Heidi said, I still don't know who the Lord guy was. Why does Matthew care about him? Do you mean the man the spy guy that he goes and speaks to? I thought it was kind of clear, but I've read the book. So he is Cecil Lord. What's his name?
Starts with a B.
Browley, something like that.
Yeah.
The guy who kind of looks like a priest, like with the long beard,
with the goatee, and he's the one who he requires an audience with Matthew, and Matthew has to go see him, and he's like, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in Scotland. You're doing my shit for me." He is an agent of the Queen. He's her new spy master after what's his name dies. What's that guy's name? The main spy master for Queen Elizabeth. What was his name? I can't remember. Damn it.
He's dead.
I know. Anyway.
We all fail History 101.
He is Walsingham. Fuck yes. Walsingham. Walsingham is dead in 1590. So Cecil Lord Browley is the new spy master for Queen Elizabeth, and he is Matthew's, agent in charge or whatever.
Correct.
Yes. So that's who he is. Burley. Thank you, Emily Daniels. Burley. And he has to go see him because this guy saw him on the street and he went and told him Matthew Royden is back. Why is he here? He's supposed to be in Scotland. And that's what's going on. So, Andy, how do I know that spoiler? It was in casting sheets. They sent out a casting thing for Indian actresses for Bridgerton, and I think that's who it is.
Do you think it'll be Joe Jonas's wife or the other Jonas Brothers' wife?
No. I'm hoping for maybe the girl from Sense8 because I love that show. And I'd love to see her in something else.
That's interesting. All right.
We need to say this for the next Bencherton. Okay. So let's talk about Little Jack Blackfriars. Little Jack Blackfriars, come run it up. More Outlander vibes with Matthew grabbing a little pickpocket. and adopting him?
Oh yeah. Gosh, I never even realized like all the similarities. Wow, yeah.
I was really feeling the Outlander
Absolutely.
similarities, but I hadn't even remembered the kid. But as soon as they like had him back in their house, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a kid
Yeah.
that they kind of adopt.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we're gonna get the maid as well.
I don't know.
Later.
I
That
don't
would've been
remember.
more believable, Lachey, right? Other than just like picking up a street urchin. I mean, that was one part of the story that I just didn't care for. And also, Diana is not a maternal type. That's not her
Right.
brain. That's not who she's
Right.
been. And suddenly she's scooping up some. She's in a different half millennia. Excuse me.
No idea how anything works yet.
Right.
And just grabs the
Does
kid.
have lice.
Yeah.
There's an episode in the book, and it was just so random, and it was just like this weird wedged in. Let's make a family. Let's have a family unit, so we know that when whatever happens later may or may not happen, that it means something because they've had something already. It's just. Deb, I love your sister, but this part did not work for me at all.
I did think it was not remembering much about him from the book, I did think it was a clever way for them to realize that Kit was talking about Diana.
Yeah.
So that little transition reveal worked for me.
But Matthew also is.
to have a pint of ale at the Lamb and could have seen people talking about them.
Yeah.
But I never
Matthew is nice.
understood
Kid?
why that made them upset, because the whole point of her going back was to find a teacher,
Yeah.
Possibly other witches or hopefully other witches. So they had to kind of make it known that she was looking. I never understood why, the fact that Kit was talking about her. Maybe he was talking about her negatively or something. But
I mean, to the wrong crowd,
sense to
like
me.
they would
Yeah.
want her at the stake. Like maybe that's what he was going for. Like,
I don't
hey,
think
this witch, get rid of her.
I think that Kit is, just talking shit and not really helping their cause to get her a teacher at this point. And so Matthew's irritated with him, but also because I think it just brings them unwanted attention. I think they discreetly probably wanted to look for a teacher, but not have Kit be like getting drunk and complaining about the blonde that Matthew's shacking up with.
Well, and speaking of that part, did anyone catch who that actor was, Cole, when he went to go speak to him? The guy he didn't talk, but he listened. His name at the goose or whatever, the lamb or the.
I don't know who the actor is.
He was Hugh Monroe from Outlander.
Oh,
the guy who had his tongue.
Right, he was, but he never spoke in Outlander. He just right.
Well, yeah, he like mumbled.
Right,
and I was just thinking about that when y'all were talking about that. So I had to look it up really quick. I was like, did I just make that up in my head? But no, I didn't. We have all these Outlander connections now.
Is that guy? I thought he was William Shakespeare.
All the sheets, his name is Pole, Pole.
Like that's what it says on his. That's what his character's name is. Okay, so when
William, it's like William.
But in the book,
William
it might have been different because Shakespeare was the one who was, always at the pub, always in the mix and knowing what was going on.
So,
yes.
we've just been introduced to Christopher Marlowe. It makes sense to like throw William Shakespeare, but make William Shakespeare like kind of down on his luck and not as cool. And B, he looks like Shakespeare, like his haircut and everything looks like Shakespeare. He calls him William. And then when he says Sir Pole, it sounds like he says Sir Poet or Lord Pole or Lord. It sounds like he's saying Sir Poet to me. So the first time I saw it, I thought he was calling him, like making fun of him being a poet or whatever. I totally thought that was Shakespeare. And I was like, oh, Shakespeare's one of his little cronies. It would have been cooler if it had been Shakespeare. Okay. I'm just going to throw that out there. He looks like Shakespeare. It should have been Shakespeare.
It's just Hugh Monroe from, the Highlands. No big deal.
Shakespeare does show up like very, like in a blink
very briefly
later. I do remember that, but so yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that that's who that's supposed to be, and maybe they just gave him a little change.
Wow.
I don't know.
It should have been. Is all I'm saying. Is it should have been. I'm cracking up at people talking about Hugh Monroe. Brett just said Jack grounds them to the local scene and also the intro to Andrew Hubbard. Very true.
Yep.
Jack serves purpose. I don't think his only purpose is to give them a family unit. And Heidi cracked me up when she said, "You're telling me they're going to adopt that kid?" I roll. kind of. Basically, he's just an urchin that they let sleep there, and then they make him run errands for them.
It's more than that. It is in the book anyway. It is more than that. They clean him up. They teach him things. He becomes like their de facto child. Now they use the pickpocket aspect for Matthew's own deeds, obviously. I don't think you needed Jack to introduce Andrew Hubbard. Andrew Hubbard rules the city. He was going to be introduced no matter what. And I don't think they used Jack to introduce him. I think in the book they did, but not in the show, right? Oh wait,
well, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what purpose Jack serves. I think maybe potentially Jack serves a purpose for their whole trajectory, right? Like, doesn't he serve I don't know. I haven't read book 3.
Well, but you've seen the rest of the season. Like, does Jack
trajectory-wise
quite a bit more trajectory-wise?
In this book, yes. I don't remember if he's part of book 3. I'll be really honest with
you.
He is.
You've seen like the next 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Does Jack show up again?
I'm disciplined. I'm not going ahead to watch the rest.
Yes, Jack is in later episodes.
Okay.
I mean, but so is Francoise. I mean, like, it's just, they're in other episodes. I thought that little actor being Jack was very, very cute, and did a very good job. His little line, "There's no such thing as witches," was very adorable.
Yeah.
Good, cute little,
I love
tagline.
How maternal Diana got when Matthew was trying to chide him in the street and be so like coarse and upfront with him. She was like, "He is just a child."
But that's not
and
her.
Then,
he's an only child.
But I know, but just because knowing what's going to happen after it.
Yeah, I like the Diana.
My foresight kicked in on that, like her little motherly. But realistically, no, she would have been like moving on.
Yeah,
well, I think that she would have been absolutely like, "Stop being a dick, okay? Calm the F
to
down."
him, yes.
That part,
Correct.
yes, but that's not how that scene worked out. It was to protect Jack. I was just like,
yes,
it's not on brand. She has no maternal instincts at all.
Maybe she's ovulating.
Maybe she does now.
Maybe. Dun dun dun.
You never know. You never know what's going on. There are a lot of things in this show, as good of an adaptation as it is. There's a lot of times where it feels like there's a lot of lore underneath the surface, and they are not showing it to us. Like, I would easily say, like, having watched this show with my husband last week, like, he has no idea that they haven't had sex yet. That is not clear in the show.
No, it's really not clear. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, they haven't
had sex.
They haven't had penetrative sex.
No. Correct. That's
after Bridgerton and how much we got during that show, seems like such a travesty.
I mean, there's very hot sex scenes in this show so far, and we'll get more of them. But there's just no, they have not had penetrative sex yet, and I guarantee you, my husband doesn't know that. And it's like a huge part of the lore of what's coming up. It's like there's just something about the way that this show works out where there's a lot going on that we know about if we've read the books that doesn't get expressed.
This show moves very quickly. It's real fast. And when I watched it first. I watched season 1 first. And then when I went and read the book, I was like, oh my goodness, wow, I didn't see any of that. And I watched season 1 again and was like, okay, I understand what they did. They had to get through the season. They had to get to this point. They left a lot out. And I assume they're going to do the same. I was hoping they would slow it down a little. I think they did in this first episode. They kind of set the table very well in this first episode, but sounds like maybe not so much.
It's a good season. I'm not saying it's not a good season. It's a good season of television.
No.
And as an adaptation, I don't think the first season is perfect, but I think it's a very good adaptation.
No, it's great. Yeah.
And part of that is because it moves so quickly.
Yeah.
And the bigger part of that is because even though there's a lot of lore going on underneath the surface, when you're reading the book, you're learning all of that through Diana's perspective. And in the show, they gave us, it's so much richer because we're going to Venice and we're headed, we're going to Madison and we're spending so much time with other characters beyond her, even with Jillian and her little like Oxford coven or whatever. So there's a lot going on in the adaptation that makes the show richer than sometimes the book is. But there's also a lot where I feel like they are barely scratching the surface, and I feel like it's very easy to get confused. Heidi said, as a non-book reader, I'm missing all the context, which is very, very sure. Aaron said, I was wondering about that. It's not clear to me. Heidi again, they're not doing it. That's it. He wants Kit. I don't hear anything else. There are vampire reasons why they aren't doing it. They highlight.
But there's also other reasons that they alluded to in book 1 and in book 2. She's very much a modern woman. There's a whole passage where she talks about sex where it's physical. It's something that she needs. She's had a few boyfriends that she cared about, but she takes and leaves. And she's really open. She's very modern about that. It's very transactional for her. And it's not that way for Matthew at all. You see that agony in book 1 and in book 2 when he talks about the women that he's loved in the past and the power of his love. And ultimately, he's very old-fashioned. He's a devout Catholic, for goodness sakes. So I think that we're seeing them sort of meld into this unit, but we're not celebrating sort of the really stark differences in their personalities. And you know what? She would be like, yo, and that's what that whole "you're leaving tonight," that's to me would have been the perfect time for him to go, look, we have time. And she was like, you're healthy, I'm healthy. This is like celebration sex, man. That's what we do now. And they haven't had that confrontation yet. And I think that's really important to the development of their relationship. And very, very important to later with Philippe when the whole, process, the vampire ritual of mating becomes apparent.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot like involved in their sex and you're 100% right. What they're doing, what they're talking about. And it's 100% not clear right now. It does. They wake up in the same bed and he's shirtless. I mean, that is, on-screen code for we had sex last night. So it's not clear.
Not remembering the book, I totally thought they'd had sex by now. And I feel like they're not even dropping hints. There's the big elephant of the room that, hey, we haven't had sex. Are we going to talk about that? Because they haven't talked about it. I haven't even really hinted at it. So
or she could have said, I am your wife.
Yeah, or because I would have thought the night, in season 1, when Matthew comes back, and I thought they were mated at that point when he says, I love you, and they do the weird hand thing, and then they go have naughty times in the bed. I thought the deed was done. So it's really interesting.
In the book,
really
it's very
and that they're not making it an issue right now.
Yes. And in season 1, after they do the mating, there is a very intricate scene in the book about bundling. And he is very specific about bundling, which if you've seen the horrible movie, The Patriot, all about. But it's very clear that he's just going down on her. That's all that's going on. And they make that clear, I think, in season 1 in that scene. And then later on, the other sex scene that they have when they're in Madison, it's clear that he's going down on her and they're not having sex, but it's not clear that she's irritated with that. She seems satisfied. There's no reciprocation and they're good, but it's still not clear that they're just that there's a reason they haven't had penetrative sex yet.
I vaguely recall her being somewhat confused though, because right
in the show
about it.
Not in the book too. And he says, look, we have time. Look, in
the book, it's clear.
Yes.
They're not making it clear that she's even aware that there's something missing, which, whatever. It's a big deal. And it just seems like it's something that maybe even would have been brought up at this point. When they went back up to the room, she's like, so if we're married, are we doing this thing? Let's do it.
Because she did kind of give him a cut look when he, described her to the school night as his wife, She kind of looked at him and everything. So
later, upstairs, I am your wife. And she giggled. I'm like, they're very comfortable together. I think that's one of the things I like about this episode. There's such a great rapport between the two of them as actors and as characters little half jokes, and she does not put up with his mood swings one bit. And she very much let him know how disappointed she was. And I loved all of that.
Yeah.
But they haven't had sex, and that needs to be addressed because it's a huge part of the story later.
Yeah. And Heidi is telling us I had zero clue they weren't having sex. It's because it's a visual medium. This is not the book. It's a visual medium, and there are shortcuts to television shows. I mean, everybody was talking about the Bridgerton sex and how he's like a 2-pump chump. And I'm like, guys, it's condensed. There's shortcuts to things when you're watching it on screen. We don't want to watch 45 minutes of them having sex. We have Pornhub for that. So it's not the same thing. And in this, the shorthand is very simple. They wake up in bed together, he's shirtless, and they're joking and laughing. And she's like, "Oh, are you worried?" And it's very cute. It's one of the best scenes where she's like, I'm a fashion victim. She don't want to be seen with me because I had on a hideous dress."
And then rolled over on her, and it's so dark, and it's like, there we go.
You think about Twilight, where like Edward not having sex with Bella was a huge part of the books and the movies. Like, it was very clear Edward wanted to wait. She wanted to jump in the sack. And so it just blows my mind that they are not acknowledging it at all.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird that this shorthand of screen is working against what's really going on. That's how
because if it does become an issue later, it's going to be like, there was no clues along the way. Like, there was no build up. Like, they set up so much tension for the coming season in this episode. And they completely left that out.
Dawn, I don't know what you mean here, but I don't have to
talk about this because I know Beth's husband. So if we could just move on to a separate conversation. I don't know in the biblical sense. I don't want that to be confused at all.
We are perfectly fine with COVID quarantine, is all I have to say. Teresa just said, or not Teresa, Andy said Teresa Palmer is significantly better in this episode than she was last season. I will 100% agree with you. I think she's great.
So much better.
She looks better too. She just looks better.
With those first few minutes, she's in that nightgown and her blonde hair is down. She looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Wasn't she had just had her baby?
Oh yeah, she is a new mother when she's filming this. Yes.
Yes, and that gives her that glow and the voluptuous, kind of, especially when she's in those like very see-through bed gowns that they have to wear. But because I remember seeing that, I was like, oh wow,
she's got nursing boobs, but she's very, 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 very good in this episode.
Yes,
I'm not at all pulled out of it feeling like she still looks like I feel like in the first season there are times when she seems still like a teen actress, and Diana is meant to be much older than that, so it felt sometimes where I felt like she was a little off because of that, but I still think she's really good. I think as leads, they do a really good job together. Mm-hmm. I love when they were walking through London, and they're just like giggly and funny, and he's like, okay, let's go back. Great. Matthew Good is just like so great, and I think she balances him really, really well. I think their chemistry is really good. Mm-hmm. And I loved seeing London. I know we talked about that like slightly in the beginning, but the CGI is really good. I mean, especially consider the first season, we had that really weird flying thing that's not great. When Satu comes in and grabs her, and then they're like flying like Christopher Reeve and Superman 2, and it's not good. But this CGI, as far as what London looks like, I mean, London in 1590 is T90.
Yeah, small.
Mm-hmm.
It's the city.
And I think it's the
all
real
built on top of each other. It's dirty. It's not romantic in the sense that you would think it was. It's just,
and it's pastoral, like outside the wall.
To a extent. Yes.
Yeah. The walls. I mean, when you see the witches burning a bonfire, they're literally right outside the city, which is only like walls. It's like how big was London back then? Like maybe like it was like a square couple of miles, maybe. I mean, it's not big
at all. No.
Very small.
Yeah. So like a square mile. And so I just think that they just did a really good job. I think it looks excellent every time they pull back and you see the city, or when you see St. Paul's or whatever. I just think it looks really good.
Oh, when I see the old St. Paul's though, it's so, I love it. It's so pretty.
I love that they took those moments as like, because Diana is a historian. Like they gave her that minute to be like
A nerd.
just a giddy little girl. Like I'm seeing history, and like the music was like building and exciting, and so I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I was laughing at her talking about the smell and how it doesn't smell, and I'm like, I still don't buy it. I don't
I know,
buy
like I still expected it to be dirtier than it was,
And the
it.
but I don't know. And
as
it's
the
just
manure
smell my
part
face
goes by.
watching that scene because I'm like, I would love to time travel, and just like how giddy would I be to be back in this world?
Why would it have smelled? I didn't understand that line.
Because there was like talks like the slots,
They're-
the bed chambers or the night pots.
No, I know that they do. I'm saying, why did she say it doesn't smell bad? It totally.
Well, she said, you know, she always tells her students as a professor that that it must smell or that it probably smelled, and then once she time walked, she was like, oh, it doesn't smell as bad as I thought it would. So
I feel like
it
the
always
people
makes me
still
laugh.
would have smelled horrible.
Maybe she has COVID.
Yeah. Maybe.
Who knows? Everybody in my house has COVID. Why wouldn't she?
Oh.
No, I'm saying that's I just didn't buy it. I still don't buy it. I know, you know, they made the point in the book, they made it in the show. I still think it probably smells. So,
I agree.
Maybe there is like a real, like maybe because things are cleaner, the air is cleaner, the Thames is cleaner.
and no, it's the Thames. Lord,
even,
no.
like, even if you've been, it's been like 3 years since I've been to London, but it's still when you're at certain points by the river in certain areas and certain locations, you get a whiff, or even like the subways in like the old part of Paris or Milan, like you get a whiff and it's just like, God, that's disgusting. Like it's been around for a while. The odor has lived with it. It's gross. It's there.
Well, there must be
I
some
lived in Afghanistan with open sewers, so it is a smell that never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is a reason that it was commented upon and in the book and in the show, and I just don't know what it is. Like there's some historical reason that I guess Deborah Harkness puts that in her books. Like there's got to be something that she's latched onto as a historical little tidbit that we don't know about.
They can comment about the smell, but not about the lack of sex.
You know, there you go. There's a nice little encapsulation of the major frustration of this episode. Give us the goods. Like explain, Philippe, just a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. What's going on?
Just a little bit.
Did y'all think at some point when she was up in his attic that he was going to storm in and be mad?
No.
Or did you? Okay, I did.
No, because he stayed out so late all the time,
I have a comment about that
until the early morning.
He's a vampire. He doesn't get tired. He's not gonna like schlub his way up there. He's heartsick, but because he's remembering all the shitty stuff he used to do in his previous life, and he doesn't like the person he was then. He's not a huge fan of the person he is now, but you know, it was really that was very strange when he just sort of like, he found it.
Yeah.
I was like, where's this famous Matthew temper? Where's this rage? This how dare you? Or maybe he should have been like, oh shit, I actually forgot about this. Because he should have smelled her up there, right? And opening the door, imagine if he had like looked around and it had dawned on him, oh my God, the horror of what he actually did in 1590. But instead he was like, oh, you found it.
I guess because he was prepared to be in 1590. He knew where he was going and she didn't know. Remember in the last episode of season 1, like she's like, I don't want to know. And he's prepared. And so he's maybe already dealt with the idea of, okay, what was I doing? Where are we going? And you know, he's got a vampire brain or whatever, so he can kind of remember it all and be kind of back in that moment. But I did expect him to be like, why are you snooping, bitch? But he wasn't. And I guess that's good. I mean, I guess that's kind of a trope that we didn't need. Where the guy gets upset. I thought the same thing when stupid Daphne Bridgerton was going through his letters and his dad's secretary. I thought he was going to bust in and be like, why are you reading my letters, bitch? But he didn't do it either. So I guess it's like a trope that I have in my mind and expect all dudes to act like that, and they don't. So it was good. Good
He
stuff.
did kind of bristle at her, I think, for being so curious or asking so many questions of him after he's been out all night for like, 2-3 nights in a row and everything. You know, he kind of gets that bristle, but she comes right back at him like, nope, we're doing this together. I protect you, you protect me, that type of thing. You know, so.
Why do you think that her magic is lessened in this moment? Why do you think that she can't light the candle after having lit the Halloween jack-o'-lanterns?
Do you think the time walking did something?
Okay, you all talked at once.
Sorry. Do you think time walking had something to do with it?
Say it again, Courtney.
Do you think the time walking had something to do with it? Like maybe drained her energy?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's the only thing in my head. That's how I was like, well, maybe time walking.
I think it's the pressure of the moment. What do you think, Jana?
Oh yeah, that too.
I said, yeah, it's like probably performance anxiety because she's got Kit glaring at her. She's got Matthew there. She's got Henry Percy and Walter Raleigh, and then this witch that she's desperately trying to like impress and get her to help her. So yeah, I think probably just she's nervous. So
and why does the fruit die?
Because she did a different spell.
I know, but why? Why does that happen?
So she's terrible at spells, right? That's been a theme through the entire book. And I think that, remember, she says to herself, remember to latch on to something you know or something you love. She says something like that. It's like, that's magic comes from within, whatever you want. And I think she's so nervous and very much wants to kill Kit or kill something or damage something that's where it goes.
Also, part of how magic is tied to time. Like, she just time walks. She can manipulate time.
Yeah.
So the fact that the fruit, got old and died, that's it basically going through its life cycle. So that's her tapping into, I guess, one of her main sources of power, which is her manipulation of time.
I like it because her manipulating time is something that I guess nobody in the room other than Matthew knows at that moment. But in their mind, she is draining the life out of something.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was really scary and badass.
Yeah. And that's why Susanna's like, nope, this is not it. This is the magic that we don't do. I'm out.
I'm out.
Peace out, bitches. Yeah, I like that. Heidi says, who did Matthew kill at the end? Someone tell me, please.
The
rando Catholic man. That's
all I got from the end of this episode? Does he kill him at the end of this episode?
Well, he's getting
torturing him for sure.
Out at the end of the episode.
Yeah, correct. He's having one of his minions pull his teeth out. Remember, he's not around and faces the other way. But it is. He doesn't see your Catholic type person.
Yeah, it's a witch, actually, that they have in jail in the tower, and it's his job, part of his spy job. Not only does he have to go spy, he also has to torture and get things out of people. He's supposed to be getting something out of him, so he has to go do that. And so they're torturing this witch for information, and he's not killing him.
Hopefully they let us know he's a witch in the next episode, because I had that did not come across.
It must be later on that they tell him who it is. Sorry.
I just assumed he was Catholic.
No, actually, I'm not even sure we know that in this episode, and I think that's.
I don't think we know what's going on with the guy. We just know that they're pulling his teeth.
Yeah, we just know that Matthew tortures and likely kills people. I mean, he kills people. Obviously, he's a vampire, but like on behalf of
he does regular killings, not just the blood stuff.
Right.
Dawn just asked, in season 1, he hunted a stag. Does Matthew drink from humans during this time in his life? Not.
He drank from Diana. He drank from Diana already. We've seen it. That was in season 1 too, even though it was to save his life, but he did. So he does.
He does. I think his other female lovers he killed by draining them. And it's not something he does really on purpose.
Right.
It's not
He tries very hard not to.
It's not his normal diet. I will say that.
This is so Twilight.
I think that one of the women he loved was
It's so
actually
Twilight.
What, Karen?
I think that it's never actually explained how his two previous human lovers died, other than one of them was, I believe, killed by Louisa.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's it is 100% irrelevant to the rest of these books, honestly, that little morsel about his past.
But I think that you're going to find out stuff about how Matthew feeds and his story about that in the same way that Edward eventually tells Bella about his season away from Carlisle and Esme. Woo! All right. This is not Twilight fanfic. It could be Outlander fanfic, but it's definitely not Twilight fanfic. It's much better. Brett just said he drinks from humans when he's high. Not incorrect. So there's a lot going on. This season is going to move very, very quickly. But this was a great episode, you guys. And we enjoyed talking about it. I might go get into the book a little bit so that I'm a little bit better prepared next week. What were you going to say, Jana?
Can we talk a little bit about Matthew Good's look this episode? Because I was never really like a Matthew Good fan. Like, I mean, he's a fine-looking man, but he didn't do anything for me personally. But then once we're in the past and he's in the black leather, and what I call it's like a Renaissance black leather daddy look. It was working for me. It was very compelling. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand the Matthew Good thing now.
I especially like his jaunty cap. And look,
And like the half cape.
look at Karen.
Yes.
It's so cute.
That no.
It was very nice.
But I
Very
love
cute.
He's just
up hair.
he's just so
And the
British.
beard coming in.
Let me tell you something. That little jaunty cap and that little cape is very pimpin' outfit, and he looks very good walking down the street looking like that.
Absolutely.
It's very fun. And Matthew Good himself is very attractive because he has a very, very good personality.
He does.
He does.
Also cute.
Just
But
not
he's so just so British it hurts, but in the best way possible. Like I love him.
Yeah.
Gosh.
John just said,
forever.
I thought he looked better than season 1 too. He definitely looks better
I agree.
than he does in season 1. Like the leathers are much more his aesthetic than like the Oxfords and Levi jeans that he was wearing in season 1, which I have to say, Matthew de Clermont would never wear dark jeans. He would not wear jeans.
No, not jeans at all.
What a dark shirt. Terrible look. It's a terrible look.
With a belt. It was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful. If they ever showed him below the waist in season 1, I was upset because
Wear cashmere turtlenecks, and I'm not a turtleneck person at all. In fact, I hate them. But that's his look: the cashmere turtleneck with the gabardine trousers. I mean, come on.
I cannot
the
handle
black
it.
leather in the 16th century is his look.
Yeah, no.
How much it smells though? Those leather pants.
He put that. No, it's cute. He put that doublet on and was like buttoning it up or whatever, like hooking it up. And I kept thinking of like little Barbie hooks, and I was like, that is 100% what this man needs to wear all the time. I mean, you could even like see the eyelets in the leather.
You know why? Because it made him look like he had hips. The right kind of hips, not the dad hips that he
And
had.
the color was so nice. And like
But
the
it worked for his
neck.
the leather worked for his jaw and for his hips. It just made the two things that he needs to be a little bit stronger, as strong as they needed to be. Yay!
He's adorable.
He's very
Well,
good.
I thought him walking at night, like you said, Beth, in that hat and that cloak. Oh, showstopper! It's just like wow.
It was a great moment.
You know, you had to look.
Yeah.
You had to watch him.
Yep, it was a great moment. Also,
I am
My
excited
favorite
to see costuming.
if we're going to talk about clothing, her outfit, the first time she goes out in her own, in the clothes that Francois gets her, with that really big tall collar with the fringes hanging down on it and the blue, I loved it. I loved it
But the
so
necklace
much.
wasn't even. That drove me bonkers. It was like longer on one side.
I did not care. I love that collar and that color. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to figure out how they braided their hair back then. Like all the different, cornets and stuff that they're adding into it. So it was cute.
Took a long time, I'm sure. What I do love about it as well is that is Teresa Palmer's hair. And you can tell because you can see her hairline, and it's excellent.
Yeah.
She has a lot of hair in general.
Yeah.
And I think she's probably wearing extensions, like when it's all loose in the nightgown scene. It looks like it's probably some extensions. She's got a lot of hair in real life, so maybe not. But I love that we are not subjected to some horrific wig.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just really nice that it's her hairline, and it looks real and is put back, and I'm just very happy with it. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Episode 1?
One thing. My favorite moment from the whole episode is when Diana has found his little secret room. He walks in and there's a big beam across the ceiling, and he's walking towards it, and I'm like, tall boy, and he just reaches up and rests his arms on it. And I'm really tall, so just the fact that he's tall is so nice. But that was my favorite moment. Just that tall boy energy, and he just kind of gives her this look.
Yeah,
that was my favorite moment. That was when I was like, okay, Matthew, good.
Yeah,
we're good now.
When you can rest easily on a high door frame.
Love it.
Hey, this is Tudor England. It was the average height was like
it probably wasn't super. Yeah, it wasn't super tall.
It was an attic.
Stop popping
made it look
everybody's
good.
bubble.
But he's a really tall man, and I appreciated that moment.
How tall are you, Jana?
I'm 5'10".
Lachey, you're tall too, right?
5'11".
Yeah. Nice.
Look at these tall ladies.
So the tall boy energy, I appreciate it.
Me?
That was a good moment.
Yeah, it was good. I'm not a short lady, but I do appreciate a tall man.
Well, we're both in love.
How tall is Matthew Good?
If only we had access to the world's information at our fingertips.
That shit's never true.
He's probably like 6'1" or 6'2".
Yeah, 6'1" sounds right.
I think that's probably right, Jana.
6'.
Because Michelle Dockery is tall, and he's taller than her.
He's 6'2", according to the intro.
He says 6'2", so I'm gonna guess he's probably like 6 foot.
6 foot, yeah.
It's like when on athletes they do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
My husband is.
But it says that Teresa Palmer is 5'6", but I feel like she's shorter than that.
Yeah, she's
just
tiny.
in other things I've seen her in. She's very tiny.
I was like 6'4" because he's taller than Jack, and Jack's like 6'2".
I know you always say that. Ryan is 6'2", like 6'2" and a half.
Jack is 6'2", and I've seen them next to each other, and Ryan's like he towers over him.
I think Ryan's just bigger.
Yeah, Jack does have slopey shoulders.
Yeah, Ryan's very wide. He asked me the other day what adjective I would use to describe him, and I was like, big? He said big. I was like, big? He's like, would you say burly? And I was like, I guess. I don't know.
Who asked that? You're the writer. You should know these things.
I didn't want to answer. All right. Guys, it has been a hangout of witches. I want to thank all of our witches for joining. Thank you guys for talking to us in the comments. I hope you had a good time. Next week is episode 2. We'll be here at the same time, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. I hope you join us. And we'll watch it as well together on Twitter Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. So Saturday that it comes out, we'll watch it that night, and we'll be live tweeting. So it's awesome seeing you guys. I have loved discussing this show. Excited about it. See you later.